So to show you what today's seminar's work is, we have a case study, and it's kind of bringing together the last three sessions to look at the past frameworks. So we had public-public, we had public-private, we had private-private, public-private, and today we have third sector kind of partnerships. And to kind of get an understanding for conceptual framework, I've identified a paper for you to read. It's a 10-pager. It's a quick read. So the abstract is kind of the summary, and you will see there are like 6 pages that kind of talk about internal factors, external factors. They're divided by empiry, so things that you can measure easily, and more soft aspects that were kind of coming from interview accounts. And they provide you kind of a conceptual framework to look at benefits of different scenarios. And the idea really was to kind of read those and kind of highlight the conceptual frame factors, and then work a little bit through the past 3 formats that we had. Yeah, so maybe going in the slides, and wait a minute, let me log in quickly. So you basically go on our module side, and then teaching materials, and we are in a third sector partnership. So you select that, and you have as well the video. So if I talk about something that you didn't understand, you can watch it again. But if you go on session material, you have the seminar reading, which is a 10-pager. Yeah, it's a very good journal article written by colleagues from Cranfield University. Impressive piece, actually, that they did. And then you kind of have a conceptual framework, and a session for the seminar. I wanted to cover really 2 tasks, the first 2 tasks, so that we have a start of a conceptual framework. And here, it's first task number 1, based on information in the paper and the previous week sessions, reflect on different drivers. Yeah, so this is the first, drivers. Why do we actually do it? The purpose. Yeah? Why would you start something like that? From private-private, public-public, public-private, and today we cover as well third sector. So this is, you will see it in the paper, so you can just highlight it, that you have it as a starting point. And if you work in teams, so you kind of read it for yourself, highlight, and then kind of collect the factors, that you have like a nice table as a starting point. This is probably quite good. Then make a list of what you consider to be the most significant drivers for each type of partnership. In some slides you will see it's probably quite straightforward, so not to give it away too easily, but we had that explicitly. Then as well kind of the hope for benefits. So the hope for benefits. So those were the 2 that I kind of wanted to cover in the seminar. So if you work on this, this would be literally what we would have covered in this seminar. So if you do that as a homework in the following 2 hours, after the lecture, then you have spent the time very well. And then we use the lunch break, so basically from 3 to 4, to kind of revise, compare. I show you as well my frameworks that I came up with. Yeah, and that is a very good preparation in a way, as well as a kind of grid for your case study that you are analyzing. Yeah. If you want to do it elite, you go as well for task 3, which is challenges, that we have to look out. And last but not least, table it. Yeah. So you have actually a conceptual framework that you can use for different case studies. So this would be kind of the outcome after this session. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah, so in 2 hours you have easy time to read through it. Take maybe a pen to highlight the different aspects that they're highlighting in the paper, and then just work through the task. And then we use the 1 hour. I don't think we need the full hour, but to compare, and I show you as well where I arrived with those questions. Yeah? Does that sound like a good model?
And that's instead of 6 till 7?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
So then basically you work through the whole seminar, and as well kind of the homework or the further reading that I would normally suggest. Yeah, and you have covered it all at 4 o'clock. And then you can use the rest of the time for revising the material you want to revise, or go home early. Yeah? Does that sound like a plan?
And where would we meet at 3 o'clock?
Exactly, that is very important. So I'm actually teaching in parallel for the construction group, and I'm in Wayne Jones 103. Did you know where that is? No?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So stick together. But just as a direction, it's a building behind Allison Building. Yeah? What is a good description for that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in front of the reception, to the left. And it's on the first floor on the right side. But do those tasks together. Yeah, read maybe the papers depending on how you want. Look for a room where you have computers, and then read the paper or print it out. And actually, if you do need to print, this will be ambiguous. Don't really make it to a printer room. Yeah, you may be able to print it in the library. But think about where you want to work maybe together. Yeah, and then do it together, that you have a good framework. Yeah. And any questions to the seminar task? How to find it all? Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Okay. Then, so this is for later on, and then between 3 and 4 we meet in Wayne Jones building 103 and compare it. Okay, today, my apologies, this was again a PowerPoint and I haven't linked it properly in. Today we kind of have the third sector partnership. There are many other forms. What do you think a third sector partnership is more famously renowned for? Actually, there's a lot going on at the moment, third sector partnership, but probably under names that are more familiar to you. Have you heard of social entrepreneurism, social partnerships? Yeah? This is probably a term that is quite popular at the moment. Now we have the same structure again. Why in the first place partner like that in the third sector? Models of partnering, they have a little bit a different spin. They are very, so we have a look at some of the models that are quite counterintuitive, but they sometimes have as a purpose to create a movement or awareness or something like that. Yeah? So quite interesting pieces. So we have a look at examples, of course. Now, this doesn't work. Oh, it does work. Okay, we do it like this. Now, third sector is normally, if you go by the English dictionary, the Oxford one, now this is online, you will see third sector as something defined like the part of an economy or society comprising non-governmental and non-profit making organizations or associations, including charities, voluntary and community groups, cooperatives, etc. Yeah, so there are many more. Now, by definition, things like professional bodies as well are often chartered bodies. They belong to this. Yeah. So, for example, the APM in the UK, interestingly, yeah, this is quite an interesting setup actually. Now, variations of the theme are normally around community, non-profit. Depending on party politics and how it was phrased more recently, we had terms like big society. When I say recently, last 10 years, yeah, so it's not that recent, but in an academic sense, it's very recent. Then we have a civic sector, civil society, so it's already moving away from a sector notion. MPO, NGO, society, community sector, sector itself. Then voluntary sector, joint, yeah, then charity, social sector, non-profit organization, not-for-profit, another one. It's interesting, fine-grained. Non-governmental, so another kind of differentiation. Yeah, and then, again, the big one, third sector. And all of those facets had like certain, like rephrasing over time, yeah? Now, some that you may know, let's try a few. Does anybody know WWF? What does it stand for?
World Wildlife Federation.
Yes, spot on. Do you know what they're doing?
They're conserving animals in a habitat and stuff, aren't they?
So what does that sounds a little bit scary. My grandma used to conserve apricot and stuff like that.
Like
But it's not the same thing.
Conservation. Keeping them alive and allowing them to reproduce and not become extinct.
Yeah. So basically, logging as well, what natural habitats look like, what the animals are that are there, or plant, flora, fauna, you name it, and then kind of indicating if there are drastic changes. Yeah? So it's quite an interesting one. Then we have as well, let's go with a controversial one, fair trade. What do they stand for? Sorry, I shouldn't say it's controversial. Fair trade, what?
Fair labour, isn't it? They get paid.
Yeah.
It's non-exploitation of indigenous people.
Workers.
Yes. So there was something like that, but again, so fair trade was a movement to kind of enforce bargaining power from multinationals in countries that kind of had low regulation or no regulations. So it's guaranteeing that the companies don't under-bargain the national standards. Yeah? So they kind of comply wherever they do business to the national standard. Minimum wage, they will always guarantee that. Yeah? There were a lot of other hopes with it as well, which were a little bit misleading, but it's interesting. Shall we take one more? What about Oxfam is quite famous, I guess. The Hof Society as well. How about the Food Aware Community Interest Company? What is that? Has anybody heard of that? It gives it kind of away in the title. What do you think it could be?
Is that trying to decrease food waste?
Yeah, so it was literally the notion that in big okay, in a nutshell, when you have the supermarket, you will see the vegetables and fruit look very much alike. If you have ever grown anything by yourself, you will see they don't look always alike. So the idea was really to kind of reduce waste, so to even put products in if they don't look aesthetically the same way as prime food may look, if they still taste well. Now this was just one incentive. They went actually into kind of the whole idea of food. So it's awareness, and they have as well certain brands that they kind of promote. Yeah? And often it has as well decreased food prices. So there are other outcomes that come along with it. Now with this, we have as well a range of definitions, and those are actually quite interesting. So I have as well tabled them later on by time to give you a little bit an idea. So a third sector is kind of everything from charitable foundations and trust via civil society. So did you know what this university is? Is it a for-profit company? Is it a charity? Is it a public sector organization? Is it
Private, isn't it? But someone said the other day it was private,
That's what Ben said yesterday.
but for public use or public service or something.
Is it supposed to be a non-profit?
it's a charity trust. Yeah.
Oh.
So we basically reinvest all the profits into the organization and into the campus, into the students, and so forth. This is misleading. So into the learning environment, if you want. Yeah. So yeah. Then so this would be an example. For example. Yeah. The general charities whose primary purpose is awarding grants to other voluntary organizations, other institutions or individuals. So here it's actually awarding the faculties to actually run the business. So Northumbria University has kind of a board of governors that run the charity trust, and they allocate funds to make the, well, we have actually a societal purpose. So we want to generate basically an international outreach for knowledge transfer and regionally strengthen business and support our local and global economy. Yeah? So we have wonderful targets like that we account against. Yeah? Then we have as well civil society organizations. So here it's a sphere in which people come together on purpose to collective interest. Community organizations, it comes from a similar idea. Cooperative, very, very interesting. This is a very UK spin, if you want. It's in other hybrids as well around the world, maybe slightly different title, but it's autonomous association of person united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social and cultural needs. So you may remember, and the idea really being kind of democratically controlled, so this is often like a voting system. Do you remember the cooperative movement in the UK? Well, what it stands for? So you may know as a co-op shop where you can buy veggies, food. They had as well a bank, funeral service. They have actually quite a big group, have a lot of activities going to the fair. Do you remember why that was? In the UK, there were a lot of small communities that didn't have enough kind of people living in it to make it worthwhile for the big retailers like Tesco or Sainsbury to open up a supermarket. So the co-op tried to basically bring food and kind of healthy living to the local communities. This is why it was set up. Have a very noble cause if you think about it. And it had charitable status at the beginning, and they have now changed to a shareholder internal based model, which is quite interesting. But this was the initial motivation for setting it up. This is as well why ironically the cooperative had such a power in its naming. Yeah. Now then we have as well general charities, again not-for-profit organization. Then NGOs. What are NGOs? Do you remember that? It's quite popular at the moment, isn't it? Non-governmental organization is what it stands for. What do they do? Have you heard of any?
They're predominantly concerned with environmental issues.
Yeah. Well, environmental could be one. Yeah. So it's really the sustainability agenda, often the triple bottom line. So they often look at equality economically. Yeah. Then they have social themes, sometimes cultural drift. Yeah. I said drift. Social cultural themes. Yeah. Or actually environmental. Yeah. With sustainability and conservation aims potentially. Yeah. Or more conscious use, awareness campaigns. Yeah. And they're actually strong players. They're often as well involved in large projects. You have to watch out for them because very powerful, actually we'll come later on to what they potentially do, very powerful players. Then we have as well not-for-profit sector. So here all non-profit organizations, including those for private benefit and those are non-commercial. Again, housing association is a big thing. Can be as well universities, we have that as well. It's our university, not so much, yeah, we are more there, but other universities, I think Kent University is a new university somewhere down south, they're actually founded that way. Then we have registered charities, and here all kind of hybrids depending on when they were founded. So this is charities registered with a charity commission, so with a board, and a charity must register if it has a permanent endowment, a total income more than 5,000 a year, or a retreatable occupation of any land, including buildings. This is quite powerful too. And then last but not least, what is probably quite trending at the moment is a social enterprise to have an additional layer. Here we often have trading for social purpose only. Yeah? So they often have like a remit that they try to achieve. And this can, social can be as well cultural remit. Yeah? So you may have at the moment, actually here in Newcastle we have a lot of traditional trades re-emerging, the self-brewing, and they are often started on social enterprises to have a momentum with crowds funding, and some are even a non-profit basis before they actually start off like commercializing it. So there are all kind of hybrid organizations that come from that. And yeah, often community business, trading arms, charities, or helping as well to initially create a market for maybe businesses. Yeah. Now the TSO attributes, if you want to summarize it overall, it's independent of government. This is quite an important one. Now this may look counterintuitive. I remember I had a dear friend that works in China, and she always thinks this shouldn't exist. It should be done by the government, by the representative. But this is exactly where the spin comes from. So in some countries, government is not fulfilling those roles anymore. And this is literally where the space for TSOs is created. Well, at first there's the empty space, and then the TSO kind of step in because they realize this is a service we do need in our society. This is also an important part because of history and culture of the sector. So often there's a strong social bias, you have kind of this, the next point, the value drivenness. They want to create value that may not be accountable in the business models that are around at the time. So there's often the notion that there's a need for more. So this means they are motivated by the desire to achieve social goals, for example, improving public welfare, the environment, or the economic well-being, rather than desire to distribute profit and reinvest and surpluses generated in the pursuit of their goals. So for this reason, TSO are sometimes called not-for-profit organizations. This depends as well on the setup. I suppose this was just a personal notion because it resonated with Alex and me. So a better term, if you're very accurate about it. So for example, a charity, like the university, doesn't make any profit either, but we generate surplus that we then reinvest into new facilities. Here you have then the notion not for personal profit. You still have a salary for the people, and ironically, in the third sector, it's normally a lot higher. This is something that should be very carefully observed. But they reinvest a lot of the profits. So there's no cashing out on the surplus profits. Having said that, in some charities that even happens. But in many cases, TSO need to make a surplus or a profit to be financially sustainable. So you will be as well monitored on a regular basis. You cannot make money there either. TSO legal status. Now this depends from country to country. Be very careful here, but this is a little bit UK-centric. But TSO can take a number of legal forms. Many are simple association of people with shared values and objectives. So this is kind of the general line. Many have a company status, but with a for personal profit approach. And this then differs a little bit on the legal framework where you are. And then very many have charitable status. Charitable status is in many European countries associated that you have an independent board that kind of votes where you're going. So you need normally a minimum of 4 people. So there are as well the social entrepreneurs where it's just one person. This is well okay. But that is where it kind of goes legally separate ways. Charitable status or a community interest focused company. This can be even industrial and provident societies or cooperators. So there are all kinds of hybrids really that exist in reality. Now, if you look at the TSO significance, I have here the hybrid pyramid to give you an idea of scales. But the presence of large non-profit sector is sometimes seen as an indicator of a healthy economy and local and national financial measurements. This is highly contested, by the way. So here it depends really on what country you're reading the papers, the journal articles. So here it's perceived to be very good, very innovative, and it's seen as well as social entrepreneurism. So people take charge of their society, they make it a place where they want to be. In other countries it's seen the other way around. If those pop up, then the government is not really doing what they are supposed to do. But again, this is like political flavor, and it differs greatly. Now, with a growing number of non-profit organizations focused on social services, the environment, education, and other unmet needs throughout the society. Non-profit sector is increasing central to the health and well-being of society. I indicated that already. This doesn't necessarily mean hospitals, but this means as well cultural diversity. So you have kind of an environment where you feel after work or whatever you're doing during the day that there's something else to do that is exciting, that kind of makes you want to participate. Does that make sense? So maybe a dance class or something like that, or cooking in a team or something like that. And it has been suggested as well that non-profit sector provides an excellent outlet for variety of society's labor and skills. So in other words, it's often as well associated with widening the horizon. You learn additional skills. If you participate, you have social skills. You know how to interact. You kind of make yourself a rounded person. That is normally the association. So it's quite interesting spin. Now, if you look at the distribution, you can kind of see that you can divide it by income. This is in the paper that you will read as well. So we have here a small kind of peak that have an income over 10 million. So here we have kind of large housing associations, large social care, and large, this is really just to give you an idea. I mean, as a charity trust, our universities would be as well in here. We are far beyond 10 million income. Then you have kind of at a smaller level between 1 million and 10 million, you have as well kind of a large representation of different bodies. So here you have, for example, professional associations like the Association of Project Management sits here, just above 1 million. Then you have kind of, yeah, but this is correct. Oh, the M is a little bit questionable. So this is not 100 million to 1 million, but 100,000 to 1 million income. You have another more community-oriented activities that kind of have a current status. And when you go smaller, you will see the charitable sector differs. But you have the details as well in the paper, so if you're interested in that, we're as well looking at it. In the Northeast, to give you an idea, we have actually quite a big sector here. In the Northeast, there are 4,760 general charities, and the third sector assets totaling something like 2.7 billion. So it's a big economic contributor, if you want. At a regional level, and you have all kinds of different organization activities going on. So you can see housing associations, we have 71, then companies limited by guarantee. This is a little bit how you can break it down and get an idea of the scale. Now, TSO partnering is really about kind of creating a partnership. So if you look historically at it, it was really associated with a mixture of state market, voluntary sector provision. This involved widely varying interaction with civil society and the provision of welfare services or history, both in the UK and internationally. So you can see this actually, that the example from my family, so this is a long time ago. My granddad was into mining and like kind of international trade, in the end just import-export in Switzerland. But the interesting thing there was that his dad started off like a small company that was kind of making jewelry parts that were then bought from product, so from little clock, not little, but clock makers or watchmakers and so forth. They would be basically the people that would buy the material from him. And what was interesting, what I wasn't aware, in his village, he was one of the employers that actually kind of built the school. So the local canton in Switzerland, which is like a kind of region, didn't have the money to build the school, so they basically approached the local employers and asked them to help them basically finance building the school. And they saw that as a good thing to do. There was no question, so they basically went into this and did this as a voluntary sector. activity and help building it up. So this is kind of a tradition in Europe, and we have now switched to more economic models. But we still have the leftovers, so those traditions remain. And depending on where you are, you may still see hybrids of that. Yeah? So it still happens. In the 19th century, we had philanthropy, and this is as well the time when my granddad's dad kind of was around there, so 1890 to actually even before that, so 1880 is kind of when he built his company. So this was exactly the time when that was kind of in, yeah? In the form of limited profit housing trusts often, and mutual activities such as the building of societies, predated state intervention on these fields, and the eventual foundation of the welfare state. Now this is different from country to country, but you can see similar movements at the time. Yeah? So in other words, the employees of the company would as well push for that. You would just get children, and you know the next school is like 17 valleys over there. Yeah? This is a hell of a ride up the mountains every time. So you were probably considering like, hey, why don't we build a school in our village? Of our valley as well. Yeah. Now the history of TSO partnering. Now this is a little bit. This is actually a joke from the Economist, but you can see there was a public sector, and it has kind of like shifted a little bit more to big society, yeah? and it's a rebranding as well for certain reasons. So the interactions between the sectors is complex and multidimensional. This is very important to realize. So with relationships varying in terms of funding, finance, ownership, and provision, and regulation, and the role of choice. Yeah, choice is an important one. I have a dear friend that who has just progressed to being a project manager in the police service. And he looks at the moment at a massive merger between police in Yorkshire and further down south. And there you can see as well that in the partnerships, it's on one side about making it more profitable, but it's as well that there are other reasons. That they are actually collaborating to reduce crime in this particular area and optimize their resources to partner actually. And it's seen as a goodwill that the one police officer from one region actually supports the other one, so they collaborate better. So it's as well about political choices potentially that are not so logical initially in the initial setup, what the project actually intends to do. Perhaps the most important form of partnership historically has been the between the state and the voluntary sector, particularly in the healthcare. So here we had the opposite turn. So it got actually more and more. NHS is kind of the national health service, which was a hybrid that kind of came from the private and was pushed into a public sphere to make it free. And so those are a few hybrids really from that. And of course, TSO and public partnerships are increasingly common in the UK and EU as well, as a move towards the big society model of the welfare provision. And you see as well partnering between business and TSO is growing in popularity. This is why a strong push for it, because in some sectors or in some areas it has really generated a lot of benefits, and those are often held a little bit higher. It has as well created a few tragedies. If you think back of the case studies that we discussed, there were as well a few that are a little bit controversial. Now, if you look actually at TSO public sector partnering, it's often a strategic partnering arrangement which involves the third sector earlier and more deeply in the design and commissioning of the public services. So this is as well from the Scottish Government, and they see it really as empowering services. You look over it, you have the expectations, what the public kind of needs as a stakeholder, and you go then into providers that basically do this for you. Again, this is kind of the word cloud from their webpage. And if you look into that, types of PSP, here we have a separate organization, maintain their independence, but work jointly on some activities or functions. So this creates often as well matrix organization, which can have their benefits or disadvantages. Then organizations with resources or expertise offer assistance to other organizations. So here we have a large national organization working with a small local group, for example, to have the outreach. Yeah? So the local people have probably kind of the networks, do probably already partly do what the bigger organization tries to do, and if they now get as well the resources, both are probably empowered. Yeah? And new organizations to do joint work on some activities or function, a group structure where a parent organization governs a group of subsidiary organizations. So this is more where I have seen that as well in national versus local incentives. Yeah? And then of course merger to form a new organization working as one body on all activities. Again, we have here many hybrid organizations. Now there is a lot of controversy around it as well. So normally the drivers are bidding for and undertaking contracts, and more to move even to bigger contracts might be pushing TSOs to consider collaboration even more seriously. So for example, the mega projects that we kind of deal with as well in the other modules. This puts a lot of the public organizations, or as well kind of the third sector organizations, in a pressure position. They cannot deal with it because it's the quantity of information, the interface is too large. Yeah? And this has been as well kind of criticized, that it's viewed as imposed and therefore problematic. Yeah? So that they have to kind of deal with quantities that may not reflect really their local interest. Then desire for market entry as well, so partnership working and collaboration support scale, shared resources and expertise, and therefore potentially the achievement of better outcomes. Although that remains an open question, we had that already in the last session. The Empirie kind of sets it still that often the benefits they were setting out to do is in 50% not achieved. It's like flipping a coin. It means that something generally, if the intent is not clear, if you start off with the wrong intent, you can have a very conflicting outcome basically. And then of course the desire to share the costs. This is often overemphasized. I wouldn't just say it's a cost, it's often as well the kind of responsibility. But here costs of maintaining a back office, covering procurement, treasury management, IT, HR procedures, and training, for example, are commonly referred to as good example. Now here you kind of have the different elements. On one you have the commerce and the compliance, which is probably associated with the third sector, because here actually let's do it one by one. So public sectors is probably somewhere between the commerce and the community. Private sector somewhere commerce and what we actually consume with the culture as well. But I would say culture is as well here, to be honest. But then on the third sector you have community and compliance, or setting what has to be complied by. Yeah? So they have agenda setting power here, they have agenda setting here, and public sector has agenda setting power there, if you want. Yeah. Now, further drivers is of course funding related. Here we have, so with the PSP, you have bringing together expertise, increasing influence, including through lobbying. So a lot of, as well as social enterprises, basically positioning themselves. And you often see, if you have a look at MPs or as well the House of Lords, who's actually there, you will see they're often involved in activities like that and represent the interest, of course, of those organizations. So hence the lobbying and also the attempt of attaining critical mass, to create that agenda setting power. Then it's as well outcome-based commissioning, by working jointly on pathway to better outcomes. So here you have, for example, health, homelessness pathways. It's a strange way that you would want a pathway to homelessness. No, it's of course the other way around. Yeah, it's the idea that if you're in a terrible situation, that you find yourself homelessness, that you find a pathway very quickly out. Then well-being, social inclusion, and then as well rehabilitation from offending. Yeah. And employment, So finding employment if that is desirable. Yeah? Then you have as well the personalization and personal budgets. So these developments are already pushing providers to consider collaboration in order to be able to offer a wide range of services which people and personal budgets can commission. And then the last one is really the public spending cuts as these deepen. So as well, we have actually a wonderful year in front of us, exciting year. We have an election, and there are a lot of new potentials, depending on how people vote. Yeah. So this is here, maybe wherever you will be, you will fever as well along and see what's actually happening. Yeah. Now, the benefits associated with this, public service can gain a lot from working with the third sector organizations. Often it's as well charitable or voluntary. So the benefits really vary across policy and geography and areas, but some of the common themes are understanding of the need of service of users and communities that public sector needs to address. So this can be communal groups. We come in a second to my favorite table. If you hear the history of this third sector, it's just fabulous. Then closeness to the people that the public sector wants to reach, ability to deliver outcomes that the public sector finds it hard to deliver on its own, and innovation in developing solutions and performance in delivering services. Now, there is a bitter tone to this as well. Do I have that actually? No, I don't. In my particular research area, to do with skills and organizational capacity, that this was as well perceived as a bad thing. So the third sector has actually facilitated that the public, now this is controversial, but the public sector has become very lazy. They prefer to go with a targeted approach. So they really like working with the NGOs that are very good in identifying and representing certain groupings of the society, but groupings and the targeting is here already an exclusive term. So they represent basically only the targeted population. So by definition, you miss people out. It's of course easier to have particular audiences that represent, that are represented, because you have lesser interfaces. You don't have to talk with everybody. You don't have to think about how you could reach everybody. Yeah. So it means as well that there's probably management going in that direction. Yeah. And that is a little bit controversial. Now, the PSP importance, successful adoption of the public social partnership approach to the design and delivery of services can engender significant benefits. I've given you as well the transformation kind of delivery circle that is famously adopted. So here services are not designed in isolation, but you have this dialogue to make it really meaningful to what you are trying to achieve. Greater agility to find creative solutions to service user requirements, and helping to break down intra-organizational bureaucratic barriers and risk-averse cultures. So it means as well, if you have the dialogue, you can see as well what are the factors that are actually meaningful, rather than just like being on the safe side and having a long list to assess everything. Supporting the delivery of a wider social and economic benefits focused on the communities, and of course, last but not least, promoting the sharing and transfer of skills and knowledge between partners, opening markets for the third sector as well. So it's quite a powerful one. There are of course challenges and warning signs with it. Lack of public sector understanding of the role that TSOs play is often given. So they're often treated a little bit like a company that is as well financially liable. And actually we could just start a social enterprise very easily. There's very little liability. And if we are politically motivated, we may just push for ours, not for the greater good that the public sector should consider. Then we have as well poor relationships between the two sectors. Often the social enterprises can't really deal with the bureaucratic interface that you get with a public sector institution potentially. And lack of and as well leadership styles and communication styles often miss each other. Then lack of united sector voice is another one. Lack of TSO's resources and capacity. Often it's just people that come together to do something. So it can be very kind of straight and less equipped, if you want. And then, of course, the reluctance to collaborate. So often there's as well that feeling, how can we trust them? That you just started your business a week ago. How can we trust you? Dad, I had a look at your business model. There's only 2 pennies against a social enterprise. What is your reliability? So those are some of the biggest challenges. A classical example is the Shelter one, 5-year partnership aiming to put housing back on the national agenda and to basically provide as well housing. So in the UK we have an interesting market at the moment. Does anybody know housing? Do we have enough? Do we have too little? Do we have too much?
Too little.
Too little, yeah, spot on. So we have a shortage. If you have a little bit money, you have a look where there is a kind of housing shortage, you build their houses, it's very likely that you will sell them if you get your market share right, if you know how much money the people can afford. Then this was kind of the idea, transform the standards of Britain's home, especially in the private rented sector. So it was targeted at a particular sector and help people struggling with bad housing or debt. Do you know what happened? Did this work? Have you heard anything? Okay, this is a very specific example. It kind of worked, but yeah. Once the houses were empty, they had their clause that they could sell them on, and that was a lot more profitable. So basically, the housing idea fell apart. Is it umbrella body? Yeah, is that the term? Yeah. Basically withdrew, and yeah. British Gas improved the standard, but it didn't really deliver on what they were after. Actually, do I have that on the slide as well? No, I didn't. So it was a big outrage, but some of the famous example was as well one of the MPs. He had actually bought a lot of the houses and started renting them out privately, so not just to people that kind of had a low budget. So this was quite interesting. And then you can, of course, undercut the market and make a lot more profit. So there were a lot of unethical consequences with this. So they don't always kind of deliver what you set out to do. So you have to hold people as well accountable. Now, if you look at the TSO business collaborations, you have actually kind of interesting origins. So this is kind of the table that I wanted to cover. This is as well on your paper. But it started off with the preservers, and that is kind of like 1800 to 1970s. So the partnership idea came really as a tacit for corporate influence. So here you had cooperative projects, education, joint marketing, you had as well kind of set up of social institution that we now take for granted. This came often from there, and it was to kind of maintain like the technical know-how or certain cultural features that you have worked on, to not lose it. And examples here were Amnesty or Red Cross or Save the Children, SNC, WWF. So yeah. Do you know those? What does Amnesty stand for, or the Red Cross? What do they do?
It's like Amnesty International, it's like Guantanamo Bay and stuff like that.
Yeah, what do they do there?
Like people's rights, like human rights, isn't it?
Human rights, yeah, spot on. Yeah. So they had realized that there is like a baseline that we should comply by, and they're trying to enforce and educate kind of all the different societies and communities. So they embrace those. And Red Cross had similar ones. Yeah, but it's an even older organization, and they have a very ruthless history as well. Yeah? They're very influential players. It's as well about here the key thing was preservation that they were after. Now, where are we? Oh, okay, I rushed through the rest. But we had as well protester movements for independency, so this is between the 70s and 80s. Again, tacit for corporate influence was protest actions and campaigns. So for being accountable to social communities or social, well, actually, I suppose communities as a whole. So here you had, for example, Greenpeace on the environmental and not hunting certain animals. So it sits as well very closely with the WWF, what you explained before. And the idea really to protest, to create awareness, to say, okay, wait, this is not how we should do things. Then we had as well modifiers. So this was kind of, again, a strategy independency, so around the 1990s. Here we had demonstrations, appeals, scenarios as well that were kind of played out where this could go. In Germany, this was a really big one. This was actually how the Green Party was born in Germany. They had the pledge of going away from nuclear power. This was after Chernobyl, after it was realized what could, if it goes wrong, how terrible it could be. Or here we have as well Friends of the Earth, ATTAC. What does ATTAC do? Does anybody know? Well, I mean, they are of course into the demonstration business, so they stay for liberty rights as well. So there's a little bit an overlap, but they are as well kind of more modern movements that you see quite smartly organized. And the last one, the more current one, is the scrutinizers. So here again, independency, again 1990s. Here it was investigations, articles, publications, and films. So they kind of played at the same level as many national organizations do, which is quite interesting. And here we have as well Fair Trade Center, Sweatwatch. What was Sweatwatch? Did you know this? It's Sweatshirt Watch. So it was basically looking at manufacturer, how they actually have production agreements and allow like minimum standards to human rights, that people have enough sleep, not too long working hours and things like that. So this is actually where the TSOs come from. I leave it with it. I have a few more slides, but we will revise it later on anyway in the lunch break from 3 to 4. In Wayne Jones Building 103. Does that sound okay? Do you have any questions so far? Okay, so we have some time. Try to work through the paper. Maybe team up. It's always better to work in teams. Discuss a little bit. You saw here as well. I have it kind of on the slides, but maybe work through the paper and highlight it, that you have kind of a conceptual frame for analysis. Yeah. Okay, I'm running over the time. Yeah.